Hi everyone, this is Yolaine. Today is March 6th and we're talking about symptoms this week. So here we go. As most of you know, I think, I have PVNH and so did Ella. And this is how I found out I had PVNH. And so did my mom. And we didn't know that my mom had PVNH when I was a kid, nor did we know that when Ella was born, she also had PVNH. In our family, it's over 3 generations. And I'll be talking to you again today about symptoms. I did talk about it a little bit in my first video for March on PVNH. And so you can refer to that. It's on YouTube. It was about the diagnosis journey, but in this case, I'll focus more on symptoms. So obviously, as I said, from day one, I noticed that Ella was not breathing like I expected a newborn to breathe. She was pulling, I guess, is the best, like that kind of a movement. You could see her chest move, but like it felt like it was hard. Little did we know that she didn't have enough healthy lungs to sustain a newborn. In fact, that was told to me by the person that did the autopsy after she passed away, but it was definitely something that we saw very early, and that questioned and was reassured every time about. The other thing that I had noticed, and my fault, was feeling a little bit embarrassed to mention, and so I didn't focus on it right away. But Ella had a puffy chest, and her nipples, as crazy as it sounds, were not, equal on an equal line. One of them was higher than the other. And we came to realize afterwards why, because one of her lungs was hyperinflated. And so that created an imbalance. But I have photos, at least one photo where I'm holding Ella, we're looking at each other, and she's not wearing a shirt, and you can tell that her chest is puffy. And in fact, her dad and I were jokingly calling her at some point our little Schwarzenegger because of the image of the actor with a puffy chest. So, Ella's lungs were the bigger part of her problems. But as in most people with PVNH and SBH and GMH, grandmother heterotopia, and then subcortical heterotopia, as well as in periventricular nodular heterotopia, there is the possibility of seizures. And way before we found out that Ella had PVNH, I suspected that she was having absence seizures, where, she kind of stares off into space, and it takes a few seconds for me to be able to, bring her back to my attention, to me. And so I had mentioned it many, many times to the medical team at the time. And unfortunately, this is not something that we were able to prove, but I know in my heart of heart, just like I did, that Ella's was having problem with her lungs, problems breathing. I know that she was having absence seizures. And that also became obvious when she was having what I call episodes. And so Ella would just see her heart rate spike all of a sudden very, very high. And she would start to sometimes sweat from her forehead, and definitely would be uncomfortable. And then her oxygen saturations would plummet. And when I say plummet, they would plummet really low, like in the 30s. And so it was one of those things that I observed many times, and that I had to convince the doctors to listen to me about. until they saw it for themselves. And so it happened when Ella was first hospitalized during that first month of hospitalization when she was less than 3 months old. And it continued throughout her life many times up until she was intubated, and less when she was medicated with some medication that would make her more aloof, if you want, because it tended to stop the seizures. And so these are mostly, what I saw in Ella. And when it comes to me, my symptoms, similar to hers, are obviously problems with my lungs, and this is caused by the FLNA mutation. The filament A deficiency that runs in my family is actually a mutation, a deletion of the entire gene. And so this is true for my mom, it is true for me, and it is true for Ella. And so in my case, it's lung problems to the point where I now wear oxygen when I exercise. And this is fairly new. This is something that I've been on oxygen for almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years this summer. But I've always had lung issues. When I was in school, I was always having trouble with exercise in phys ed. And so some teachers thought that I was a little bit lazier than others, but it actually had to do with my ability to breathe. It didn't stop me, however, from, doing sports that I enjoyed. I did gymnastics when I was very young. I swam, and I was also a competitive equestrian. But as I grew older and older, the lungs, even though they might have progressed a bit, they are stable now. But it's my lung function that's a problem. And so, again, I do have oxygen that I wear when I exercise. Ella was on oxygen pretty much 3/4 of her life. And then I also have low platelets, thrombocytopenia, which is also caused by the mutation, by the gene deletion in the filament A gene, FLNA. And I have some hypermobility, meaning that when I was younger, I was quite bendy, if you want to say it that way. My knees would, like my kneecap would come out. My shoulders, not so much, but I have what I think is a sliding, I don't know if it's a sliding disc, but I'll get into maybe every couple of years in a position where my shoulder blade will come out and it will be higher on the left than the one on the right, and it'll push out more towards, this way towards the back. And usually when this happens, I need very strong medication, and I usually end up in the hospital for those medication under observation because it's quite problematic. For my mom, and I forget, Ella, myself, and my mom, all three of us also have heart issues. And so Ella had pulmonary hypertension, so do I, and my mom is likely to have had that as well. We also have, both Ella and myself, Ella had a aortic ascending aneurysm, meaning a bulge on the ascending aorta. And my mom had heart problems. She had a heart attack fairly young, I should say. Both her and I have always had, as far as we can remember, pulmonary hypertension. And sorry, not pulmonary hypertension, hypertension. And my mom also had, proven by autopsy, also had changes, vascular changes in her brain, in addition to the PVNH, the heterotopia in her brain. And so I'm also followed by a cardiology team. And I have my pulmonology team. I'm followed for my platelets. I am followed by a doctor for my hypermobility, and so, oh, and obviously by a neurologist, right? Although we don't think I have seizures, there's moments where I think that's what I might have had when I was younger. Both me and my mom had vasovagal episodes. Could those have been mistaken for seizures? Not sure. It's difficult to see when, trying to figure out, looking back all that, so many years. As you may remember, I was diagnosed when Ella passed away. So by then I was already 42. And 41. My mom was 71. And it was after Ella's passing that we were both diagnosed, and that we got the diagnosis postmortem for Ella. And so what does it mean for me in terms of day-to-day life? And what did it mean for Ella and my mom? Well, I'll start with my mom. My mom was almost as healthy as one can be, until she started having those more severe heart problems and also balance issues when she was older, when she was in her 50s. She was doing quite well. We suspect she may have had memory problems already by then, but definitely out of the three of us, she's the one with the least amount of symptoms. Interestingly enough, my mother passed away not long, like a couple of years after she was diagnosed with X-Linked PVNH. She passed away from complications of cholangiocarcinoma. And cholangiocarcinoma is a rare cancer. And we now know that filament A is one of those genes that can be involved in the proliferations of metastasis, or the blocking, depending how it's expressed, of some cancers, including cholangiocarcinoma. And so cholangiocarcinoma is a rare cancer of the bile duct. And so obviously this is something as well that is on the radar for me because of our family history. And so when it comes to her symptoms, as I said, she was fairly asymptomatic. My mother was a bright person, and one of the strongest people that I know, including Ella, right? Including my daughter. Both of them were at the top, and are at the top of the people that I consider to be the strongest in the world. In fact, my entire family's like that. But in terms of my symptoms, as I said, they are milder than my mom's, but it means that I have a battery. I have a lot of medical professionals that do work with me to look after my health. And so sometimes it will mean multiple oh my God, I'm looking for my words. Multiple appointments in the same week. I apologize. I've been working in French all day, so I'm a little bit like trying to go back between French and English. But it will mean multiple appointments during the same week. It means ups and downs, because if I undertake too much, sometimes I feel it a little bit more. And so I'm lucky enough that I work for myself. I've got amazing clients that I work with, both in marketing and communications, but also as a professional patient navigator. So I can make my own hours. And this is something that really helps me cope better with my rare disease. And then obviously, as I said, I use oxygen. What's really more difficult about this now is since I've started using oxygen, it's been proven, I've been tested multiple times, I need to use oxygen when I travel, when I fly. And so it's complicating my life a little bit more because in Canada, it's easy enough to fly with oxygen because the cost of oxygen tanks by an airline company is regulated. But as soon as you come outside of Canada, it's no longer regulated. And so while I do have a machine that's provided to me, it only has a certain number of batteries, and when you fly, you have to have 1.5 times the duration of your flight in available battery to be able to fly. And of course, that has to be confirmed and reconfirmed with the airline after you've filled out questionnaires and your doctor has, and it takes a minimum of 48 hours to get a clearance, but usually it's a little bit longer. So it's no longer the same life that I live where I could literally, on a Tuesday afternoon decide that I was going to fly out on Friday night to go visit a friend in the States or take a vacation somewhere. So that's been a little bit more painful for me because I used to be a lot more carefree. But all in all, I mean, it's a small price to pay to be able to travel and to be able to do what I love, which is, taking care of educating families and educating medical professionals when I travel and going to those meetings or conferences so that I can help my community better. And so the other part too is, as I said, I have low platelets, so I bruise a lot. And sometimes I bleed. Like if I brush my teeth, more recently, for example, every time I brush my teeth, I bleed from the top of this side of my mouth. Means usually my platelets are low. It can have to do, it can be stress related, it can be diet related. I have to keep my INR, which is a marker for my blood, between a certain numbers, and that's certain numbers, sorry, and that's followed by my cardiologist, my cardiology team, and my medical professional, my own caregiver, my family doctor. And so I also have had to participate in the heart program, the Healthy Heart program, which was thankfully offered at my hospital. I was referred by my lung doctor and my cardiac team. And I was before in a lung program, but that also created a subset of problems because at the time I was working like many hours in overtime, and I ended up creating more trouble for my heart. And so I had to quit that program, which allowed my doctors to treat me better with cardioversions and with medication. I even had a cardiac ablation to be able to heal and feel better, which then allowed me to go into the Healthy Heart program. And now I'm doing quite well, I have to say. So other than that, that's pretty much it for my symptoms. But as I said, I have to be careful about the amount of work that I do. I tend to work less hours. Therefore, I have to be really careful with my budget, as most families with rare disease, impacted by rare disease, I should say, have additional medical costs. It is the case for me as well. Even though we're in Canada and most of it is paid, there are still costs that come out of my pocket. I also have a CPAP because whether it's by seizures or simply because I have sleep apnea, but that is not proven actually to be related to my PVNH, but I wouldn't be surprised. And yeah, and so that's about it. And so I can't complain. I'll say that I can't complain because I have, a very happy, decent life. Obviously, if I could, I would change the story for Ella and the story for my mom. There was no one when Ella was alive that knew about X-Linked PVNH FLN8 in Canada at the time. There was the team in Texas, which I've already mentioned in my first video, that do take care of little kids and do lung transplants, and they actually work very well as well in cardiology with children. A lot of them are followed there, but Ella didn't have that chance. And so part of what I'm trying to do with March on PVNH is to educate our community members and our friends and the medical professionals that take the time to, watch this video, to what it's like to have PVNH. And hopefully someone else with SBH and GMH are going to do the same, publish some videos in addition to, post entries on our website so that you can get a better picture of how it is different for everyone. Literally, no person is alike. And yeah. So I'll stop there, and if you have any questions, please post about them, and I'll try to answer them the best that I can. Thank you. Have a great day.